Today, we're going to be talking about self-compassion and what that means, and why, for some of us, that's really difficult to have. We can be so hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up for not being perfect or being whatever it is that we think they were supposed to be. And so, we're going to unpack that a little bit today and discuss what self-compassion really looks like, how you can start to develop it. And she's got some really great resources and tools for us to share. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Come Off Conqueror Show. Thank you so much for being with us this week. And thank you to our guest this week, Karen Norris. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Karen comes to us from Colorado. She is a licensed therapist. She's been in counseling for 15 years, I think she said. She got her master's degree in counseling and psychology from the University of Denver. And she also has some training with Postpartum Support International and 2020 Moms, which sounds pretty cool. She is also a mom of two amazing little children, a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, which is really fun ages. So she's been through the trenches with us, ladies. And she recently told me that she's done a lot of work with trauma support in that realm. She was focusing mostly on motherhood and those challenges, but inevitably you can't get away from trauma, right? And so we were talking about different forms of trauma, sexual assault, betrayal trauma, childhood trauma, etc. All those sort of things she works with on a daily basis with her clients. So she understands this group perfectly, and I'm so thrilled to have her here today. So without further ado, Karen, thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your story, how you became a therapist, and why this topic of self-compassion means so much to you personally.
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to be a therapist. In high school, I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I had a couple, like my top 3 choices, and I just really felt strongly that God told me that I should do this. And it's been a journey. I definitely have enjoyed it. I feel like the therapy office is really sacred ground for people sharing their stories and being so vulnerable and open that it's really, a lot of people have told me, gosh, I just don't know how I could be a therapist. That seems so hard. But I'm like, you just don't understand the magic that happens and the connection you feel with your clients, and how much love I have for them. That now it's like hard to go to like the party and just make chit chat. I'm like, I don't do small talk. Let's like dive in. So
I feel that exact same way, actually. It's my husband says I have a superpower of getting people to open up and tell me their life story. He's like, you just make friends so instantly, and strangers will trust you with deep things. He's like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, I don't know. It's probably just because I don't know. I just feel like seeing people for who they really are, right, is just instantly gives you a deeper connection to them. And when you love people truly, they can feel it, and they feel like they can trust you. And I think as a therapist, I'm not a therapist, right? So I mean, for you as a therapist, I agree. I think it is, how do I put this? Like, it is so important. You are in such an important role and a trusting role. And because of who you are as a person, I can see how people would instantly love you and trust you and be able to really heal in your office. I think that's amazing. For those of you who don't know, I actually have known Karen for a long time. She doesn't know this, but when I moved to Colorado, when I moved to Denver and I met her, that was right after my sexual assault. So I was going through hell, if we can be honest, just a lot of pain and suffering. And I found Karen and the other group of girls and that Ward family to be so healing. And their love and instant acceptance of me was exactly what I needed at that time in my life. So I can attest that Karen's got a loving soul and just so much compassion for people, which is funny because that's our topic today, right? Compassion, but more compassion for yourself than other people. So, how does that play into therapy and counseling? And how have you seen self compassion develop in those that you've coached?
Yeah. Well, first I thought I'd share a little bit about kind of what really grabbed me is that I feel like I've always struggled with self-esteem a little bit and just feeling like I'm just like average. Like I'm just like whatever. Like I'm not the best. I'm not the worst. I'm just kind of like, okay. And when I read in Kristen Neff's book on self-compassion, she really breaks down the difference between self-esteem and self-compassion.
Okay.
Whereas self-esteem, in order to have self-esteem, it has to be earned. You have to prove yourself, right? And you have to be better than the rest to have high self-esteem, right? And so what, like only like 50% of the population can feel good about themselves? Like that just doesn't, right? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And the same things that can really feed our self-esteem are the same exact things that tear it down, right? So like I got that job promotion. I feel awesome. I got passed over. I'm the worst, right? I've lost some weight. I feel really good in my body. I have good self-esteem. I've gained a few pounds. I suck, right? It's the same things that feed our self-esteem that then tear us down. And so, of course, we're always hustling. We're always trying to prove ourselves. We're always trying to chase it and to exceed and to be better and better, right? And again, I'm comparing myself to others, right? And so Kristen Neff in her research really kind of flips the script on that and almost like, okay, here's this self-esteem mindset that always calls on that inner critic to motivate us, right? Through shame and you're not doing enough and everyone's doing better than you. So get it together. Versus this self-compassion. And I would compare the self-esteem mindset to your self-worth. Once you're really rooted in your self-worth, being that just inherently from being a living human on this planet, my worth is set. My worth is infinite and eternal. And that's not going to change. I don't have to earn it, right? No job title, no accolades, no body type is going to make my worth go up or down. So once I can shift over and be like, oh, I don't have to earn my worth. It's there no matter what I do. Then we have more of an opening for self-compassion, right? Whereas self-esteem has to be earned and it's our inner critic that is going to motivate us, right? Self-compassion is really an alternative way of relating to ourselves and treating ourselves with kindness. I think we're often our own worst enemy. And we tell ourselves things we would never tell our girlfriends. We would never tell someone that we love. But that's the voice we live within our head, right? And we think that that's going to motivate us to do better and to be better. But really, it's more correlated with depression and anxiety and substance abuse and eating disorders and all the things. And so that's what really first grasped it for me of like, oh, I can just like opt out of this self-esteem thing, right? And the times when my self-esteem is at its lowest, I don't need to be hardest on myself. That's the moment when I need self-compassion. And it's just been a game changer.
Wow. Okay. So you said Kristen Neff, but what's the book title?
Self-compassion.
Oh,
Yep.
self-compassion. Okay. Easy. Okay. We'll
And
link to it down below, everybody, so you can grab yourself a copy if you feel so inclined. Okay, so this is really interesting because I've never heard of self-esteem explained in that way. And that it's the critic in us. And this is like a real interesting paradigm shift for me. And because I feel like self-esteem has always been explained as that, but you're right, like it is earned. It's like this constant level of going up and down based on what I do. And I agree with you that if we can change our mindset to it's not about what you do, it's not about earning, it's about your self-worth, and your self-worth isn't earned. It's already granted to you by your creator, right? And anyway, that's beautiful. I think that's an amazing point. So how do you is there okay, so the next question that is begging to be asked is understanding self-compassion more, and how do you make that shift from the self-esteem mindset, right, to this self-compassion mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say it's a skill that we practice, right? We can learn it, but then we got to like do it. And the core of it is just um, asking yourself, what do I need now? And then giving yourself that. It's asking, gosh, what would I tell a friend who was struggling with this? And telling yourself that. It's not that we ever really get rid of the inner critic, right? But when that starts to get loud, I mean, that's painful in and of itself, right? And then we can shift and bring in that compassion, right? I think the inner critic in our society gets a lot of credit of like, yeah, this is how we're going to motivate you, and I'm going to take care of you, and we're going to be better if I just whip ourselves into shape. And so when we notice that's coming up, we can shift into some of these other self-compassion skills. And there's three kind of main subgroups that we can get into. But did you have a question?
Oh, I did. I just wanted to ask, like, is your inner critic what's the word I'm looking for? There to protect you, like in a way, like is it like a trigger response that people have um to whatever's going on around them?
Yes, absolutely. Right. And I think that comes from the it's a threat detection, right?
Okay.
Of like, we are so wired for connection, and that we think, oh, I failed at X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to be rejected by the group. And that's unacceptable, right? Thinking from an evolutionary perspective, like you cannot survive without the tribe. So we're wired for that attachment. We want that approval from others. And if our system detects, ooh, we're going to be rejected, or this is unacceptable to the tribe, right? Then we tap into that fight, flight, or freeze system, right? Which really brings out the inner critic. But there's a lot of self-compassion skills that really specifically target that.
Okay, so you were going to talk about those three skills, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry for interrupting you for a minute there, but I wanted to make sure I understood what you were explaining there. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the three main components of self-compassion is self-kindness, which is kind of like what we've been talking about. Mindfulness, which is just being aware of the moment and really allowing yourself to feel your feelings, right? That we're going to feel the joys of our successes, and we're going to feel the pain of our failures. There's nothing wrong with us for feeling that pain. We're allowed to feel that pain. But it's when that pain then switches to so I'm a bad person, or something is wrong with me, that's when the inner critic gets loud, right? But if we can learn to tolerate our emotions, then comes in this warm blanket of self-compassion to help us get through those tough moments. So it's self-kindness, mindfulness, and common humanity, which is we're all human. We've all been there. We've all experienced this, right? Knowing that like I'm not alone in this, right? Like, gosh, parenting is really hard, not just for me, for everyone, right? It's not like I'm the worst mom ever, or I'm the only one who struggles with this. It's like, whew, it's hard to be a mom, right?
Amen, sister. I love being a mom, but man, it is the hardest job I have ever had by far.
So hard. So hard. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So number 1 was self-kindness. I should be taking notes. Number 2 was mindfulness and being aware of your feelings and not shaming yourself for having those feelings. Number 3 is common humanity. Is that what you said?
Yes. Or shared humanity.
Shared humanity. I like that.
So then the counterpoint to the self-kindness is self-criticism. The opposite of mindfulness is this rumination, right? When we're just really stuck in our head. And then the counterpart to common humanity is the isolation, right? Whenever we just feel so isolated, like I'm the only one going through this, or gosh, if only other people knew this part about me. But if we can shift, right? And that's what I love about your group and bringing together these survivors of sexual assault. It's like, okay, like this is the hardest, worst thing that's ever happened to me, but I'm not alone, right? And finding that sisterhood, finding that connection of like, oh, someone else gets it. I'm not alone. It's powerful.
It is powerful. And it's been so healing for me personally to hear other people's stories and how they've conquered, right, their trauma.
Yes.
And hearing the different ways that healing comes to people and their different resources, and just it's been so therapeutic. And on top of that, it's been incredible to watch the healing happen in other people's lives and see them blossom and them let go of their baggage and their trauma and flourish instead of being in this constant state of survival. It's been incredible. So if you feel like you're in that place, I want to invite you to join us, come be a part of our Facebook group and our support system. We'd love to have you. You can sit on the sidelines and just watch for a little while. There's a lot of members in the group who just do that, who just sit and watch. And then there's others who engage when they feel so prompted. But anyway, little plug for our group. But
and just knowing that you're not alone. That's so powerful.
Yeah. So you have a self-compassion workshop that you do there in Denver, that's getting going. And I think I remember reading on your post that you use these 3 different books during the workshop.
Yeah. So let me see. I've got the workbook over here. Hold on.
Look, your camera moved again.
Oh, that's so funny.
I love it. I think it's so awesome.
It's like crazy technology here. But this is the workbook that every participant will get. It's by Kristen Neff and Chris Germer. They also have, on my post, I showed their individual like self-help books, Tara Brock, just a lot of amazing meditations. So just kind of like on my end, I pull from all these resources. There's tons of free resources. That again, I can send you those links. But here we'll
put them down below, everybody, when she sends them to me.
Yeah. So the workbook really goes through some of those key points. It has a lot of exercises and mindfulness practices that we do together, right? Finding a mantra to really bring in that self-compassion, right? Because our self-critic, has been doing its job for a very long time and knows exactly what to say, right? And this compassionate part is usually like, hey, I'm new here. I don't know, like can easily fall into the background.
Hey, I'm new here. Yeah, it does kind of feel that way when you're getting it going. Yep. It's shy.
Awkward. It's
Yeah.
awkward. And it's the opposite of this, like, gotta be strong and tough and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and kind of that shame mentality.
Well, you made me think too, like we're wired to not, how do I say this? We're wired to be humble, if that's like the word, if I can say that. We're wired to kind of like, if you think good about yourself, you're prideful. Or if I do self-care, it's selfish, right? Like we're wired by society to think these things. And so having self-compassion can feel very foreign when you're just starting out, even when you've been trying to practice it for a long time, like I have the last few years, I've been trying to give myself more compassion, and it still can feel really awkward. I think that is the right word. It can feel really selfish. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah. And I would just shift the we're wired this way is that we've been conditioned this way.
That's true. You're right. You're absolutely right. We're not wired. We're conditioned. You're right.
We're conditioned, and our society teaches us that.
You're right, because we're actually wired the opposite. We're wired to feel God's love, and we're wired to feel love for everybody and compassion and charity. And so, man, good catch, Karen. I love you. You're awesome.
Yeah. And again, it's a skill that can be learned, right? We were taught to be critical and to be judgmental and to have self-esteem. Like that's the best thing you can give a kid, right? Is high self-esteem. These are lessons that we were taught. These are skills that we've been taught and that we see everywhere in our society, right? That man, when we can shift to be compassionate with ourselves and others, knowing, gosh, we're just all doing the best we can, right? And life is hard, and I'm not going to feel happy all the time, and that's okay, right? And there's going to be these challenges, but I'm not alone in them. How that level of acceptance and self-kindness can actually be the best motivator, that people really change when they feel good, not when they feel bad, right? We've been trying this a long time, and it's not working, and society just keeps trying the same thing, hoping for different results.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I found out too, everybody, that her workshop's only in person in Denver. So if you live in Denver, go look her up, right? But she has some ideas for us for if we can't make it in person. So what are those, Karen?
Yeah, so I would direct everyone to Kristen Neff's website, selfcompassion.org. And there she has a quiz. I would have everyone start with taking the quiz to kind of test your level of self-compassion. And I think sometimes even just taking that quiz helps define for you what is the inner critic versus what is self-compassion. And then she also has a ton of online trainings. She has one, I think on Saturday, would be a great introduction to self-compassion skills. And just learning from the master is amazing. But then it is a very large group. But I know I did one, and then we did like some breakout groups, and I was talking to someone in Great Britain and Germany and Czechoslovakia. Like, so there's pros to that too. And there's just a lot of awesome free resources to build this skill, because I think it really can be transformative personally and for our society. It's powerful.
Awesome. This is great. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today, Karen. There are so many things I could ask you right now, but I've been told I need to keep these short. And that's really hard for me because I inevitably have more questions. I'm like, oh, I want to know about this and I want to know about that. And so sorry. But so to honor everyone's request, I'm going to invite you to come back and we can talk more about. I really want to unpack or talk more about how to teach your children this self-compassion. And
Yeah.
I feel like so many of our members in our group are moms. And I know like it's kind of hard to teach it if you don't have it for yourself. So while you're teaching it to your kids, you're going to learn it yourself. But also you hit on something that really struck a nerve with me, that we've been conditioned this way and society says this, and we don't want to perpetuate these things with our children, right? We want to build them up. We want to give them the best that we can. So are you willing to come back and we can talk about that more?
Absolutely.
You're an
I would
amazing
love that. It's been so fun.
I want to hear how you do it with your kids, because this is something for me, I'm really trying to instill in my kids, is to have high self-esteem. But now I'm realizing, no, it's more about self-compassion than it is the esteem part. So, okay, awesome. I'm glad that you'll
Okay.
come back. I
Absolutely.
really appreciate it. I'll send you the link. We can schedule it again and we can do this. Awesome. You are amazing. I'm so glad we reconnected today. And
Yeah.
I
Thanks,
really
Bonnie.
appreciate all these resources and you helping me understand the difference between self-esteem and self-compassion, and
Mhm.
some really great suggestions of where to find some help. So thank you, everybody. If you want to connect with Karen, I'm going to link to her Facebook page. I highly recommend following it. She always gives really great tidbits on there, suggestions and resources and insights. She's just really is so wise and so great. So please follow her on Facebook. I'll put her website down there too, and we'll link to the Kristen Neff resources as well, and our Facebook group. So if you want to join our support group, you can. And we just really appreciate you guys being here and liking the video and subscribing and sharing and all that stuff. It really just helped grow our community and help get amazing messages like this one out to those who really need to hear it. So thank you, everybody. And stay tuned for next week. And once I do Karen's next interview, I will update this video so you can see the next one. Thanks
Perfect.
again, Karen. You're awesome.
Thanks, Bonnie.